On 9/9/99, a new NFL gaming franchise was unleashed by Sega on the Dreamcast. The NFL 2K series burst onto the scene and immediately scored major critical and commercial victories. But 6 years later, the hugely popular series would be wiped from existence. In this video, I'm going to summarize the statistics behind the 4 head-to-head battles between Sega's NFL 2K games and Electronic Arts' Madden games. We all know how it ended, but I hope to shed some light on just how closely Sega was breathing down EA's neck before the $300 million coup de grace. And stay tuned to the end of this video for my first ever rant. One important note before we get started is that this analysis will not focus on game quality, but I should point out that major gaming outlets tended to score both franchises fairly evenly and fairly highly. In fact, IGN scored each of the games in this analysis at or above a 9. If we start our analysis on the surface level and look at total sales for the Madden and NFL 2K series from 2002 to 2005 on the PS2 and Xbox combined, the results look pretty one-sided in Madden's favor, with Madden games collectively selling over 18 million units, compared to 2K's 6 million units across those 4 years. But surface level numbers often betray the truth that lies just below, and in fact this analysis is no different. Let's drill down a level and look at sales by year to look at the trends. These numbers include combined sales totals for both PlayStation 2 and Xbox versions of each game. Madden 2002 pulled in just over 3 million units sold, while NFL 2K2 entered the battlefield with just over 500,000 units sold. This was Sega Sports' first ever game on a non-Sega platform, so I don't know if they would have been happy with those sales. I can say that their prior entry, NFL 2K1, which was exclusive to the Dreamcast, sold somewhere around 1 million units. So I think we can reasonably speculate that Sega would have viewed this likely as a building or establishing period for the franchise. In 2003, Madden sales would increase by around 1/3 and move north of 4 million units. Impressive. But NFL 2K3 also saw a big increase, a massive increase actually. 153% more units sold than the prior year, nearly hitting 1.5 million units. EA must have been a little concerned at this point, but the 2004 versions of the games were an entirely different story. Madden continued to increase and sold over 5 million units, while 2K seemingly stumbled and dropped down to just 500,000 copies sold. I can only speculate, and it's hard to find information on this topic, but part of this decrease could have been related to the rebranding of the 2K series as ESPN Football. In retrospect, this could be a point of regret, as the 2K brand was just beginning to get over, and the rebranding was something that they would quickly fix. At this point, you have to imagine that EA was feeling that NFL 2K's growth from the prior year was an aberration, and that they would be the true kings again soon enough. But 2005 flipped the script again, massively. Madden saw a modest increase to 5.7 million units sold, but Sega went back to the 2K branding and pulled one of the most shocking maneuvers of that generation of gaming. They released NFL 2K5 at $19.99, shocking EA. And at the risk of dating myself, I worked for an electronics retailer at the time, and I remember thinking that that price had to be some kind of mistake. We were selling DVDs that were more expensive. GameSpot referenced this price point for that game being the steal of the century. They said it's arguably the best football game on the market right now and represented the deal of a lifetime. And people took note. The sales skyrocketed. NFL 2K5 closed in on 4 million units sold, and according to reports, EA were stunned by the price point and felt compelled to quickly drop the price of Madden 2005 from $49.99 down to $29.99. They were clearly on the back foot and looking for an escape hatch. And before we wrap this up and get to that escape hatch, let's dive down just one level more and look at differences between the Xbox and PlayStation 2 sales. It's worth doing. Average sales on the PlayStation 2 were heavily in Madden's favor, well over 3 times the average sales of Sega's franchise. But on the Xbox, things were a lot different. For whatever reason, Xbox owners were more willing to give 2K a chance. Madden still had higher average sales, but Sega was much closer on Microsoft's platform. And if we look at year-by-year sales on the Xbox, things get incredibly interesting. Madden still wins in 2002 and 2003. But the numbers are much closer, and we still get the big 2K dip in 2004, but 2005 was a photo finish. Madden 2005 came in with just over 1.6 million units, and NFL 2K5 was right behind them with just over 1.5 million. A virtual tie. EA must have seen this slowly unfolding and must have felt compelled to take action. And in fact, as we all know, they did, to the tune of at least $300 million in an exclusivity deal with the NFL. Some reports say they paid more than that, but 300 seems to be the low-end estimate. This exclusivity deal with the NFL ultimately destroyed the NFL 2K franchise and ensured that EA would be the ongoing champion. In the words of one industry veteran, EA won the war without needing to lift a single finger on the development side. Games related to the 2K franchise were cancelled overnight. People lost their jobs and consumers lost a hell of a game franchise. And amazingly, the NFL licensing deal wasn't the only deal that EA made at the time. They cut a deal with Disney to acquire the rights to use ESPN branding and personalities for 15 years across all of their sports games. A deal allegedly in the $850 million range. Once NFL 2K was no more, EA wasted no time in jacking the price of Madden back up. A move that, alongside the controversial NFL deal, would land them in some legal trouble for monopolistic practices. I so badly wish that the NFL 2K franchise was still alive on current systems and that it was the living legacy of the Dreamcast. I don't often like to inject my personal feelings into my videos, but I'm gonna have to make an exception here and go on a mild rant. But in fairness, before I do that, I have to point out that there are reports saying that it was the NFL itself that was seeking an exclusive deal, and that EA was just the highest bidder among several publishers. But still, here are my feelings on the matter. I hate the fact that EA wrote that check and got that license. I can't believe that EA seemingly had so little faith in their own development teams, that they didn't believe that their teams could fight fairly against Sega and let game quality win out. And I can only imagine that some members of that development team must have felt that this was a complete corporate vote of no confidence in their abilities. I also can't believe that EA was so terrified of the prospect of losing profits by Sega slashing game prices that they felt compelled to spend well over $250 million to shut Sega out and ensure that they would sit on the throne for years to come. But they did, and I hate it to this day. Now, Madden has certainly evolved and become a better game over the years, but the NFL 2K game series was a holy moment in gaming. It was as good as the legend says, and NFL 2K5, as Polygon says, is truly the King Arthur of video games. That's it for me this time around. If you want to start a conversation about this epic battle, go ahead below. I read and respond to everything. And if you like this approach, maybe check out another video or two and throw me a subscription. I'd massively appreciate it. In any event, thank you for watching, and until next time, all the best and the sky is the limit.